Hi, this is Kimberli Lou, and today I'd like to discuss Venezuela and why the United States is so interested in Venezuela and why the United States has had a huge show of force and U.S. military in the Caribbean Sea. First of all, Venezuela are huge narco-terrorists. We have a huge amount of narcotics coming into the United States. Over 1 million Americans have died since 1999, well over 1 million. So a lot of families have suffered. We have a huge homeless population. A lot of this is due to the use of these drugs. It's a really, really sad situation in a lot of our streets in every town. Particularly here in Virginia, we've been hard hit in deep Southwest Virginia where I'm from. So first reason is for the narco-terrorist. Second of all is the Tren de Aragua gangs. We had open borders under the Biden administration. There were a lot of Venezuelan gangs that came across the border. They apparently are armed. They were allowed in the last administration to even take over Americans' home complexes where people were essentially, Americans were kicked out on the street. Gangs were allowed to take over. We can't allow that in our country. We don't have a safe country when gangs are taken over. I've personally spent time at the United States-Mexico border. I have seen and watched Venezuelans cross the border. A lot of them that crossed the border were very financially well off. They would fly to Mexico and then they would essentially walk across and enter the United States with multiple Gucci bags with beautiful children by their side. I've been able to speak to them in person in facilities when they come across the border. Thirdly, paid politicians. It looks like a lot of our politicians that we have in Congress and in the United States Senate have been paid off in millions of dollars in order to turn their heads to this gang activity, to the amount of drugs crossing our border. And then General Hugo Carvalho Barrios recently came out with a statement and a letter that he wrote to President Trump stating that our elections have been stolen and that the smartmatic type of computer ballot software is able to manipulate our elections in the United States. So that's a really big deal. We don't have a secure country if there's another country that is controlling it. So other than stopping the drug traffic, halting sanctioned oil, like we recently saw oil they were able to stop different tankers that were being transported to sanctioned areas that are not supposed to have oil, and the United States is going to keep that oil. They've been able to stop that. You've seen them coming after the supposed fishing boats that are also coming towards the United States with drugs. And so other than stopping that, stopping gangs, dealing with election interference, I do believe that we are about to have a global currency reset, and the Venezuelan bolivar is going to really increase in value largely. And so I think there's also a large United States interest there because we may see a change in the bolivar, and we cannot have the current regime in Venezuela if we're going to have that type of currency revaluation. So let's talk about what no one else is talking about. Yesterday, I spent hours speaking to an exiled Venezuelan opposition leader who is currently in Argentina. I've been able to meet them in person before. A very interesting story. I'm going to tell you what the news is not going to tell you. So let's talk about Maria Corina Machado, who just recently won the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize in Norway. So the first thing that should come to your mind is, why did she receive the Nobel Peace Prize? Why has the mainstream news made her so popular? And why is it that Norway, who wants to spend a lot of money on weapons and arms against Russia rather than diplomacy, why is it that they are essentially harboring these Venezuelan leaders right now? No one's doing any type of questioning in the news anywhere that I've been able to find. So this same media, you have to remember, is the globalist pretty much bought off media. A lot of it is incorrect news. This is the same media that supported Obama and Kamala. It's the same news that's supporting Maria Corina Machado. So let's talk about some of these people who are involved. In 2016, Manuel Santos also won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was an extreme leftist. He was a leader that made agreements with a guerrilla in Havana, Cuba. So you have to start to question what exactly the Nobel Peace Prize is and the people who are receiving that. Look at Obama, for example. Obama, in America, we jokingly call him Obama, B-O-M-B, because he bombed a lot of countries. It was pretty continuous. So on July 28th, 2024, all the people in Venezuela took to the streets after the election. They started to destroy monuments of Chavez. They obviously realized there was a problem with the outcome of the election with Maduro being back in power. And Maria actually went out and told everyone to go back home. Well, the problem is people listened and not many people stayed in the street. In the meantime, the current Venezuelan regime was able to get pictures of people. So those people were no longer protected. That regime went to the house of all the people who had been out in the streets. They were able to capture that video footage, show it, and then arrest them. Venezuelan has a huge political prisoner population now. Because of Maria, thousands of people are sitting in jail as political prisoners. So later on, in actually January of this year, she told everyone again, oh, let's go out to the streets. But not many people showed up because they didn't trust her at all. And she told everyone that Edmundo Gonzalez would become the new president. But he said nothing's going to happen. So the Venezuelans say that Corina Machado actually faked being captured by the Maduro regime. She appeared in a square. She said that she had been released, but no one believes that she was actually captured. They believe that this is the same political theater that has been occurring in this country for decades. So, for example, the regime creates someone who appears like they're the opposition, but in reality, they're not really the opposition. Because if you were really going to oppose this current regime, more people would take to the streets and you wouldn't bow down to them. And if she was truly some type of a political prisoner in hiding, then she would not have been able to move freely through Venezuela. She would not have been able to live stream. Let me give you an example. There was a police officer and 8 others who stood up against the regime. So the regime actually showed up with 300 different military agents against them, along with RPG rocket-propelled grenades, which are actually used against tanks. And when this police officer, Oscar Perez, was live streaming, they blew up his house. So they did it so the entire public could see. And anybody that was still alive on the inside, they shot them right in their forehead. And it was really sad. One of the wives was 8 months pregnant, and they first shot her in the stomach and killed her baby and then shot her in the head. So extremely violent regime. Had she really been a threat to the regime, then they would have known where she was when she was live streaming. Because when the police officer, Oscar Perez, started to live stream, the military was there in less than an hour and took care of them. So my opinion is that this is the same playbook that they've been using for a long time. And you need to question when Europe is supporting this type of regime change. Europe is being run by globalist warmongers who care more about lining their pockets. They are completely destroying the Western world. Russia, the reason they hate Russia so much is because Russia has been untouchable. Russia